Hey guys, Miss Rogers here. Today we're going to talk about decimal and fraction notation dealing with prices that we could see on a daily basis. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is figure out what I mean by decimal and fraction notation. And what I mean by that phrase is being able to look at a number written in its specific form and know what it's meaning. So if I give you a decimal, you need to be able to look at that decimal and know the way that the number is being written out, so the place values in your decimal. If I was to give you a fraction, you need to be able to know how that number is being written as a fraction, so the different values with fractions, okay? So before we jump into dealing with the decimal and fraction notation of prices of different things, let's do a quick review on decimal place values. Okay, so if I was to give you the number 5.67, okay, the first thing that we need to do is be able to know our different place values when we're dealing with decimals, okay? So this easily could be represented as money, $5.67, easily, okay? So let's look at the place values of this specific decimal, okay? So I'm going to look at the left of my decimal first, okay? So the first number to the left of the decimal is always our ones place value, okay? Then when we move to the right of our decimal, that's when things change a little bit. And we all know with our decimal place value that those place values are very similar when we're dealing with our whole number place value. The only difference is instead of starting with ones, we start in our tenths place value, okay? So our first decimal place value to the left of the decimal is our tenths, okay? So remember, I just said that was our biggest difference when we're dealing with whole number place value and decimal place value. Our first decimal place value is tenths, not hundredths, okay? Then our second number in our decimal goes into our hundredths place value, okay? And all of these place values to the right of the decimal just means that these numbers are going to be divided by 10. So these numbers are just going to be over like a base of 10. Okay, so our tenths, this would be a number. So I'm just going to say n that represents a number over 10. Okay, our hundredths place value with decimals, it would be a number over 100. Okay, if we went into our thousandths place value, it would be n over 1,000. Okay, so the numbers to the right of our decimal, those place values just means it's going to be divided by a base of 10. Okay, so let's get into a couple examples dealing with different prices. Okay, so on my board, I already have kind of like a list going on. Okay, as you all know, I love to bake. Baking is one of my hobbies I like to do when I'm not in the classroom. Okay, so obviously one of my favorite things to shop for is different baking supplies. The latest technology to use in the kitchen, the different supplies that I would need, and the different materials. Okay, so if you noticed on my list up here, my 3 different items I would go to the store and buy all have to deal with baking in some way or form. Even if it's like the materials I would use, the different things I would use to make them, whatever it is, they all represent baking in some way. So I like to shop at Walmart. Walmart is one of my favorite places to shop where I can go buy baking stuff, okay? So all I did to get my total amount of what each of these items cost, I just went to the Walmart app that's on my phone and I just typed in my item I was looking for and then it popped up the product that I could buy and the price, okay? So if you all look right up here on my board, I have a hand and stand mixer that's worth $44.99. Then I have a baking pan sheet that's worth $9.92. Then I have a cookie cutter, or cookie cutters I would buy, that is $26.48. Okay, so all I did, I just went to the Walmart app and put the total amount of money that each of these items would cost. What we're going to focus on is we're going to take these decimals or this amount of money that each of these items cost, and we're going to put them in a fraction form. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do this. After you watch me do both ways, then you decide which way is easier for you. Okay, I will tell you which way is my favorite, but you do whichever way makes you comfortable. Okay, so if I look at my first item on my list, I have my hand and stand mixer that is $44.99. So I'm going to bring that amount and put it over here so I can work with it over here. Okay, so if I look at $44.99, okay, I see my $44 is in the ones and the tens place. Okay, if I look at my 99, those are going to be in my tenths place and my hundredths place. So I'm going to put that up here because it's going to be important. Okay, so the first way is usually one of the easiest ways for students to be able to convert decimals to fractions. But like I said, I'm showing you two different ways, so you decide which way is easier for you. Okay, so what I'm going to focus on first is this 99. Okay, so the 9 that's in the tenths and the 9 that's in the hundredths. Okay, so if I look at my last place value that's in this amount of money, which would be my last 9, that is in my hundredths place value. Okay, the key word in hundredths is hundred. Okay, and I showed you all at the beginning of the video that this THS means that it's going to be divided by a base of 10 in some sort. So if I look at my board, I have hundredths. So what this means is the base of hundredths, so my base of 10 being dealing with hundredths, I'm going to divide that by 100. Okay, that is what hundredths mean. It means that it's going to be divided by 100. Okay, so now I'm going to put this 99 as my numerator of 100. Okay, because this is showing 99 hundredths. Okay, because my last place value is this 9, and this 9 is in the hundredths place value, and hundredths just means it's being divided by 100, okay, to get you that decimal. Now, I need to figure out what I need to do with this 44. Well, if you look right here on our price, this 44 is the whole number of our price. So, the easiest way to do this is just to put your 44 out to the left of your fraction. Okay, so if I was to represent $44.99 as a fraction, I would have 44 being my whole number. Then I have 99 over 100. That would be my answer. Okay, and if you notice with your answer right here, 44 and then 99 hundredths, that is a mixed number. Okay, the second way is a little more tricky, okay, but it can be just as easy, okay, depending on how comfortable you are with this. So what I'm going to do with my second item right here, I'm going to look at the $9.92. Okay, so if I look at my price, let's go over the place values that each of these numbers represent. Okay, I'm going to just use my first letter of them so it makes it easier for me. So the 9 is in the ones, this 9 is in the tenths, and this 9 is in the hundredths. Okay, I'm going to put the THS at the end of these so I know that these are being divided by a base of 10. Okay, so what you need to do first is to represent this as a fraction. So the easiest way to represent this as a fraction, the easiest way is just to take a number and divide it by 1, and that puts it into a fraction. So if I was to do this, it would be $9.92 divided by 1. Okay, now what you need to do in this second step is to get rid of this decimal point. Okay, you do not want to have a fraction inside of a fraction or a decimal inside of a decimal within a decimal or fraction. Okay, it gets confusing and it confuses people. So the way you get rid of this decimal is you have to look at how many place values you're being divided by, okay, in your decimals. So if I look right here, I have tenths, then I have hundredths. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to multiply by my last place value that's being represented in my decimal, which would be hundredths, because this 2 is my last place value and it's in the hundredths. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to multiply by 100. Okay? And all that means is this number is going to stay the same. You just lose the decimal. So now my new fraction, $9.92 multiplied by 100 just becomes 992. Okay? Then 1 times 100 just becomes 100. All right? Now, if you look right here, now you have an improper fraction. And to get rid of an improper fraction, you have to figure out how many times 992 goes into 100. Okay? 992 goes into 109 times. Okay? So I'm going to put my 9 out to the side because I'm trying to make this into a mixed number now. Okay? 100 times 9 is 900. So now what I'm left with is 92 because I took 100 and I subtracted 992 from it, and now I just have 92. So now my fraction is 92 over 100. Okay, and the way I check my work to make sure that my mixed number right here gives me my improper fraction is I do 9 times 100. Okay, so that gives me 900, and I add the 92. So 992, and then I keep my denominator of 100. Okay? This way is a little tricky for most people. Most people enjoy the first way a lot easier. I enjoy the first way a lot easier because it makes sense for you all a lot more, and it's easier for you all. And when it's easy for you all, that makes my life easier. So with my last ingredient, or my last item on my list, I'm going to use the first way I did it. Since that's the way most of you all will probably end up doing this, I'm going to do the first way a little more, since the second way kind of tricks you all. So my last item on my list is cookie cutters that cost $26.48. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring that price down here, $26.48. Okay? So now if I look at my place values with this, my 6 is in my ones, my 2 is in my tens. Then if I look at the place values after my decimal, my 4 is in my tenths, my 8 is in my hundredths. Okay? So now we're going to look at this 48 first before we get into the 26. Okay, so if I have an 8 as my last place value in this decimal, that means my 8 is in my hundredths. Okay, so I'm going to put a little h down here with THS. Then I'm going to put tenths down underneath, or T and then THS. Okay, so if I look at my place values right here, I have tenths and then hundredths. Okay, so my last number and my price is in the hundredths place value. Okay, and remember that THS at the end just means it's being divided by a base of 10. So in this case, it's being divided by 100 again. Okay, so I'm going to put 100 in my denominator because I'm going to be dividing by 100 to get this decimal. Now I'm just going to bring 48 over and put it in my numerator. Okay, now I have 48 hundredths. My last step is to figure out what I need to do with this 26. And the way you do with this 26, since that's my whole number of my price, just put it out to the left of the fraction. Okay, so $26.48 written as a fraction is 26, then 48 hundredths. Okay? And then that would be my fraction. Okay? So this is decimal and fraction notation dealing with prices that you could see every day, depending on what items you decide to look up. Okay? I know this is a little tricky, but I believe the more that you see this and the more you get comfortable with this, the more that you can be better mathematicians dealing with fraction and decimal notation. Alright, I hope this video helped you guys. Until next time, see you later.